Um, Imagine looking at your bank account and then looking at your house, which is, likely your biggest financial asset,
Right.
and then deciding to intentionally leave, I don't know, 10, 20, maybe even $50,000 on the table.
It completely defies conventional wisdom.
It really does.
Yeah.
Because usually when we talk about real estate, there is this incredibly ingrained, almost sacred rule that you are supposed to squeeze every single penny out of that transaction.
You have to maximize.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You paint the walls that neutral grayish color, you hide all your family photos.
You bake the cookies before the open house?
Yes. You bake the cookies to make the place smell inviting, and you negotiate like your life depends on it.
It's culturally accepted as this endurance test. I mean, the conventional wisdom operates on the assumption that your time and your energy are completely free resources, just as long as the ultimate prize is the absolute highest possible listing price.
Right. But today, we're doing a deep dive into a growing wave of homeowners who are rejecting that premise entirely. We're looking at a fascinating shift in consumer behavior that challenges everything we think we know about property value.
It's a massive shift.
Okay, let's unpack this. We are looking into the rising trend of fast cash home sales. And we are thrilled you're joining us today because we are unpacking some highly specific data.
Yeah, we have a really great snapshot to look at.
We do. We're looking at a series of real estate blog posts and web copy from the spring of 2026, specifically March and April, authored by John Constantine.
And he's focusing specifically on the Riverside, California market.
Right, and a service operating under the name American Home Offer.
Which is also referred to as American House Offer in the sources.
Yeah, so our mission today is to explore the mechanics and the motivations behind these accelerated real estate transactions. Why would a property owner intentionally bypass the traditional open market? And, what are the trade-offs?
Because there is always a trade-off.
Always. So what drives someone to look at the bedrock of their net worth and choose an alternative that prioritizes speed over the absolute highest listing price?
Well, before we can understand who is choosing cash sales, we really need to understand exactly what they're escaping from.
Right.
The sources draw a stark contrast between two very different timelines. You have the traditional sale, which often takes 30 to 90 plus days.
And that 30 to 90 day grind isn't just waiting around.
No, not at all. It requires meticulous preparation. It's a massive allocation of upfront capital just to get the house ready. Sellers are sinking money into repairs, staging, dealing with endless open houses, real estate agents, commissions.
And the constant threat of deals falling through, right?
Exactly. And that's usually due to complex buyer financing contingencies. But on the flip side, fast cash sales can close within days or weeks.
Yeah, John Constantine's April 20th post specifically highlights a 7-day sale framework used across the Inland Empire.
7 days.
It's incredibly fast. And these are as-is sales. So there's no staging, no showings, and no lender approval delays. It really feels like traditional real estate is like directing a massive theatrical production.
That's a good way to put it.
You have to get the staging and the lighting just right to please this audience of buyers. But a fast cash sale is more like taking a used car to a dealership.
Right.
It's transactional, it's quick, and you just hand over the keys as is.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this isn't just about impatience. It is fundamentally about eliminating variables.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Well, by removing mortgage financing from the equation, the seller achieves immediate financial liquidity and certainty. When a traditional buyer uses a bank, there are so many escape hatches.
The financing contingencies.
Exactly. If the appraisal comes in low or interest rates spike, the buyer walks away and the seller is back to square one. By removing the lender, the transaction becomes binary.
You either sell it or you don't. No waiting on a bank to give you the green light.
Precisely.
But if the primary trade-off is sacrificing the absolute maximum listing price for speed, who actually makes that deal? I mean, I think a lot of people assume it's just desperate sellers.
It's a common assumption, but the sources actually identify 6 distinct profiles of property owners who benefit most from this. It's not just one type of person.
Okay, lay them out for us.
First, you have downsizing seniors or retirees.
Right. Longtime residents who just want to avoid costly renovations before moving to a smaller home.
Exactly. Why dip into your retirement savings to put in a modern kitchen just to please a young buyer?
Makes sense. Who else?
The second group is landlords, people fatigued by vacancies, maintenance, or tenant issues.
Oh, man. Here's where it gets really interesting, actually. The sources mention that landlords can sell their rental properties without waiting for their tenants to move out.
That is a huge advantage. In a traditional sale, buyers want to live in the house. They don't want a tenant.
So the landlord normally has to wait for the lease to end.
Right, losing out on rental income the whole time. But cash buyers are often investors, so they just absorb the lease.
That's brilliant. Okay, so we have seniors and landlords. What's the third profile?
Owners of distressed properties. These are homes with structural damage, outdated systems, or deferred maintenance that would seriously struggle on the open market.
Homes that probably wouldn't even pass a traditional inspection.
Precisely. The fourth group is people in sudden life transitions. So we're talking about unexpected relocation, messy divorces, or sudden medical expenses.
People who just don't have the luxury of waiting 90 days.
Right. Time is working against them. The fifth profile is heirs of inherited property.
Ah, yeah. Imagine inheriting a house across the country. You didn't plan to own it, and now you have to pay property taxes and maintenance on an empty house.
It's a massive financial drain.
Yeah.
And the final group is homeowners facing actual financial pressure, like those who need to avoid foreclosure or immediate financial strain.
So when you look at all of these groups together, dealing with the traditional real estate market is actually a liability for them.
Exactly. For these specific groups, speed and convenience can be more important than maximizing listing price. It is a highly calculated exchange of potential equity for time and peace of mind.
It's a strategic choice, not just desperation.
Right.
Okay, so now that we know who is using this service and why, we need to look at the actual mechanics. How does a homeowner actually sell a house in 7 days? My brain still associates selling a house with a mountain of paperwork.
Well, the sources lay out a very straightforward 5-step process to streamline all of that.
Okay, let's walk through it.
Step 1 is simply submitting property information online or by phone, and the company actually lists a specific contact number for this.
Yeah, the sources highlight the number 336-283-8537.
Right, so you call 336-283-8537 or go online, and that leads to step 2. Receiving a cash offer following a property evaluation.
And step 3, which feels crucial, is that you review the offer with absolutely no obligation.
No obligation at all. If you don't like the number, you just walk away. But if you accept it, step 4 is choosing a flexible closing date that works for the seller.
So you really control the timeline.
You do. And finally, step 5 is completing the sale and receiving payment. And it's worth noting that real estate agents are not strictly necessary here, meaning fewer commission fees.
Okay, so I hear the mechanics, but I have to play the skeptic for a second. What does this all mean for the seller's wallet? How do you know if a cash offer is actually fair in a process that moves this incredibly fast?
That's a very fair question. And what's fascinating here is how the FAQ section of the source material actually addresses this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they emphasize that sellers are still expected to act logically. They should compare multiple offers and review local market values before making a final decision.
So you shouldn't just take the very first cash offer blindly. You still need to do your homework.
Exactly. And there is a crucial caveat from the sources regarding transaction fees that you have to watch out for.
Right, because bypassing an agent doesn't automatically mean zero fees.
No, it doesn't. While some buyers cover all transaction costs, the exact fees depend entirely on the specific agreement. It is absolutely essential to review the fine print.
So you need to check who is paying for escrow, who is paying the title fees. All those administrative costs can still eat into that final cash number.
You have to verify what is being deducted from that top-line offer.
That's a really important distinction. Now, all of these mechanics, they don't just happen in a vacuum. The sources anchor all of this data in one highly specific location, Riverside, California.
Which provides a really great local context.
It does, but it also raises a question. Riverside is described as this growing Southern California community with a very diverse housing market within the Inland Empire.
Right.
The sources specifically note that property types vary drastically. You have these historic properties near downtown, and then you have much newer builds in neighborhoods like Orange Crest.
It's a wide spectrum of housing.
So if the buyer is just an investment company offering cash, does the specific neighborhood or local charm even matter? Why does local context matter in a cash sale?
It's a great question, and it matters immensely. Local variables and economic trends entirely dictate an asset's underlying value, even in an accelerated framework.
So an algorithm just crunching zip codes isn't enough.
No, because it can't price in the specific risk. A buyer who is intimately familiar with the Inland Empire will price a historic downtown property entirely differently than a suburban Orange Crest home.
because the historic home might have, like, old plumbing or strict zoning laws.
Exactly. It carries a different risk profile for the investor. Local knowledge ensures that competitive offers actually reflect true current conditions, rather than an investor just lowballing out of fear of the unknown.
Oh, that makes total sense. The local expertise actually protects the seller's offer price.
Right. It allows the buyer to be competitive rather than overly conservative.
Wow. We have covered so much ground today. So, to summarize the core findings for everyone listening, fast cash sales offer this streamlined, 7-day alternative to the stressful 30 to 90-day traditional real estate grind.
It's a complete paradigm shift.
It really is. By trading the pursuit of the absolute highest price for an as-is, zero financing contingency process, sellers in transition gain unparalleled certainty, flexibility, and immediate financial liquidity.
They are buying back their time.
Exactly. So I want to ask you, the listener, to reflect on your own values for a second. If you were suddenly forced to relocate, or if you inherited a property across the country, what dollar value would you place on your own time, convenience, and peace of mind?
It's a very personal equation.
It really is. Are you willing to pay a premium to reclaim your time?
And that leads to a much broader, thought-provoking question based on what we've seen in the text.
Okay, let's hear it.
The sources clearly state that cash sales trade maximum listing price for speed and convenience. But if this trend continues to grow, what happens to a local housing market like Riverside's when more and more homes are sold quietly in 7 days?
Direct-to-cash buyers.
Exactly. Homes that never even hit the open market. Does our very definition of market value begin to change when convenience becomes the ultimate currency?
Wow, that is definitely something to think about. When convenience overtakes price as the main driver.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.